Hello there, good evening, good day, good morning. How are we all doing? Our name is, as always, Yuriko Era, the Data VTuber. And tonight we are just going to be doing a bit of light chatting. Another pretty quiet week. We've been, but we just put up our schedule for next week, if you've not already seen it. And we're pretty excited for next week. Where we've got a couple of games, new-ish games that we're playing. One new game, one game that we've not played before, and then we've got Steve and Carrion. But yeah, we've been super excited. If I don't think we've posted it on our Twitter, but definitely on our YouTube community tabs, since we forgot to post this week's schedule. We made sure to do that while we were setting up the stream here. And yeah, we've been super looking forward to playing Citizen Sleeper for a while now. We found out about the game a couple months ago, and it looks super intriguing. Not 100% sure what it is, but it looks sort of similar to Cyberpunk Red, the actual TTRPG. It looks very similar to that sort of actual decision making and let your stats decide how stuff works out for you. So it's not like the actual Cyberpunk game that CD Projekt Red released. A very different sort of style, but excited to play it nonetheless. We've actually been having to keep ourselves from starting a game just on our spare time because we want to go in fresh. And then, of course, we've got Bionicle Heroes, which we've talked about a little bit. And actually, that reminds us, we were going to make a spicy meme. We'll do that while we're chatting here. Just give us a little something to do while we're make a little meme for when we post our schedule this week on Twitter here. But yeah, we apologize if at some points during the stream, during the later half, we are a bit distracted. We've got a little bit of a little meeting with one of our players for one of our D&D games that we run, or that Yana runs, and we just sort of sit in the back of their head and tell them why their narrative structure is flawed and that we would be so much better running a game, but we cannot fully assume control of their body, so we're sort of stuck just nagging them. But we've got a meeting, so the stream might lag a little bit, or not lag, but there might be some pause as Yana uses what little brain power they have to formulate their response to their person here. But shouldn't be a big deal otherwise. But yeah, tonight, we just want to do a little bit of thinking about what we're going to be doing with our Blender, and eventually when we get, or when we finally download again Bricklink Studio, what kind of stuff we'd like to make in that. I mean, there's not a whole bunch that immediately pops to mind, right? A lot of stuff that we would be interested in doing is probably stuff that's already been done before, in as far as like, we really like, obviously, sci-fi and horror stuff. So the first inclination is to make something from Star Wars, right? And with that, with that would probably be less so with just Blender, as it's not a big deal, but we feel like using Bricklink Studio, which I think we've talked about before, But Bricklink Studio is, if you're not already aware, is a program pretty similar to a 3D modeling program like Blender or Max or Maya, where instead of shaping out models and such with starting from a cube or basic shape and molding that to whatever form that you want, you use the digital bricks out of the library that is included in the studio, and you can essentially, it's like having a whole toy chest of Lego without having to actually pay for it, which on one hand is super great for the old wallet, but doesn't quite give that same brick built feeling, that same fun of playing with Legos and such. But it works. It works for what it is. And with Bricklink, with building stuff out of Lego that we would want to build, there are already official sets, right? So, like, just off the top of our head, because if Yana wanted to turn around, we would be able to see it. But we have the original, or the first, the non-UCS, the Razor Crest, basically, from The Mandalorian. And it'd be super simple to just pull up like an instruction sheet and build that in Bricklink. But we don't want to do that, right? We want to do something that is different. And what we could do is, we've got, the easiest thing to do would be build something from a campaign, right? A campaign that we want to run, or some idea that we have in our head of, let's be honest, just more campaigns. There's a lot of them up there. And it's going to take us like 5 minutes to name this image template. So I'll just do that. But a lot of our, one thing that might be suited for actual modeling is this temple that we had in mind. This is an idea that we've been cooking up for some time, that would take place at like the very, 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 very tail end of, well, the midpoint, like a midpoint, a boss almost, and the tail end of a homebrewed campaign that we're working on. And this started, we initially thought of this at about a year or so ago, a couple years ago, tops, definitely not more than before the beginning of 2020. But what we wanted was a sort of floating temple, right? Think a mix of like the floating islands of James Cameron's Avatar, and the aesthetics of Atlantis, the Lost Empire, right? Like the sort of blue, glowing, mostly stone construction aesthetic that they have. What we wanted essentially was this entire thing to be like a circular temple, floating just in wherever it happens to be. That where that happens to be is definitely less important, more sort of little details sort of stuff. Oh, lagging. Oh boy. This might not be a good idea. It's fine. It'll be fine. We'll be fine. There we go. Where were we? This would be a more, what were we saying? We were definitely saying something. The place it is isn't of much consequence. It's more, that's more something that we would not be, it's not a big deal right now, is the point that we are trying to get to. And essentially, this was, like we said, before, this was contrived of a couple years ago. So this was before Spelljammer came out, but Spelljammer was definitely a huge help in actually realizing what we wanted to do with this thing, as we realized that's essentially what we were making, right? This giant, maybe not traditional ship like Wizards of the Coast had in mind, but that's essentially what it is, right? This massive structure that is powered magically and will take places and things to their destination, is the gist of it, right? So that what we want in its appearance, because it's all at this time what we envision is like circular structure with lots of almost Gothic architecture, like a lot of arches around the ring, around the circumference of it, and a lot of points and steepling on it, sort of like the Notre Dame Cathedral. And that would be, assuming we're able to become more proficient in our blendering, to the point where we're not fumbling with our vertices and the way that things operate don't confuse us, would definitely be a lot easier. Would be very suitable for Blender to take care of, right? To build this thing out, and eventually we do want to bring a lot of stuff that we build into Tailspire. I know we've talked a bit about, well, we talked about Tailspire quite a bit on our last chatting stream, but we do want a lot of what we build in Blender to be able to be ported to Tailspire, so we can actually use it during our games. And we've not had a good look at what exporting options there are for Bricklink Studio. So we definitely wouldn't be able to say, but we feel like probably not a huge chance that Bricklink would be able to export in a, something's probably highlighted still. Where is it? Wouldn't be able to export objects in a way that, or in a file format that is compatible with Tailspire. Not that we even know what format that is, because again, we don't have Tailspire yet. Yet being the operative word here. But who knows? Maybe they will be compatible. That would just be fantastic, right? Then we could just build out whatever the heck we want in Tailspire out of Legos. That would actually be a really good campaign setting. Sort of Toy Story vibes for a campaign, right? But yeah, so we thought the temples, and there are going to be multiple of these temples. Only one that has the sort of Atlantis stone-built blue glowing vibes. But, full disclosure and at risk of, doxing ourselves in the future, because none of this, we've talked about this with nobody so far. This is just something that we've cooked up in our heads. So there isn't anybody who would even know about this campaign or these ideas that we've had. But okay, Dumbledore. Here, there we go. But the idea, and this might be a chatting stream all on its own, because we could talk about this for absolute ages. But the idea comes from Power Rangers, right? We fully want to build a Megazord in D&D, and there are probably plenty of people who would say something to the effect of, oh, if you want giant robots in your role-playing games, just play another system, right? And we get that. We understand that. We want to play Lancer. We want to play the giant robot fighting TTRPG. But we also want to have the Megazord exist in a high fantasy magic wielding setting. We can do both. We can have Lancer and we can have our D&D and we can put our Megazords in both. So that's what we're going to do. But there would be three main cores, right? Three main core pieces to the fantasy Megazord. And the stone temple would be essentially the bottom half of it. Because there would be two others, the head and the chest, that would be thematically involved in what the players would be going through at the time, and it would be a bit more organic in construction. So definitely hard surface, sort of simple. We say simple, but it will probably turn out a lot less than simple once we actually get started on making it. But that's probably what would be a good starter project. Well, not starter, but one of the first things we do once we actually get a hold of our bearings in Blender here. And then other things that, there are a bunch of ships in our current campaigns that we've used, which would probably be fun to build. And we used a whole system that was homebrewed. We have that up somewhere. Where we posted that somewhere. What was it called? It was, how do we pronounce this? Limithron? Limithron's Guide to Naval Combat, which is a whole homebrewed system that this person put together, which if you are a GM and you want to run a campaign on the Seven Seas or any sort of ocean environment, we recommend checking that out, even if you have Ghost of Saltmarsh, because it's a really solid and really involved and interesting rule set that they've got. They've got like whole ship actions and workstations that people can use and take advantage of, and certain things that allows the ship to do certain things when someone's at that station, and if they're not, the ship can't do it. And it uses hexes, which is an interesting choice. We are fully square people. We prefer squares at all times. And it's not a disdain that we have of hexes. We can understand why people like them, but we disagree with the reason that people do. So that's where we're at. Squares are the best option. But we recommend giving the rule set a look over if if you're interested in running a game in an ocean setting, or even just looking for the sake of looking, because it is a really fun set that we used. But we have a bunch of ships from that point in our campaign that we didn't really get to. We felt that our resources for portraying them were a bit lacking. You know, we could have commissioned a full artist to make these for us, but it would have been a lot of money, to be honest, for something that wouldn't have lasted a ton of time, because the naval aspects of the campaign weren't the ones that we were going to focus on in the long run. And looking up images, while it's effective and definitely the first go-to for a campaign that we run, definitely has its limits on what you can procure, right? I'm not sure we're going to erase all of this, actually. Definitely has its limits on what you can find and what you can portray in as far as your players go, right? Because you always have this image of what's going on in your head, but the players might have some other depiction of what is going on. So being able to, and like we said, there are a lot of ships that we used. So being able to actually go over those and sort of be able to fully block out and design and bring to life what we originally pictured would be really great. And again, we could put them into... What's that? Oh dear. We could put them into Tailspire if we found another use for them, or we could just have them to have. I mean, there was 2 sister ships, right, that were part of the same fleet, basically, that were the exact same design, exact same thing, except for like the names and a couple other minute details. So like we could build one in Plunder and build one in Bricklink Studio. There are definitely, it would be so fun to build it in Bricklink, especially because there's so many ship builds that LEGO has already done, and even just MOCs that people have done that give the ability to makes all sorts of different shapes and hulls for different ships. And our ship that we had was definitely not the standard pirate ship sort of design. It was more a, what are they called? Like a junk boat almost? Chinese ship? I think they're called a junk. I am going to look that up real quick. Junk. Yeah. Junk. A junk ship. With like triangular-ish, very like polygonal sails. Because oh my gosh, we're going to go off into another LEGO tangent if we're not careful. But just to go off onto that tangent real quick, we have technically the Johnny Thunder LEGO Adventures junk ship that LEGO produced as part of their Orient Expedition line. And oh my gosh, that is one of our favorite sets. We lost the little sail that came with it, little fabric or plastic, whatever sail. But the rest of the build, it's such a fun little build. And Adventures was such a good line. RIP to Adventures. Maybe one day they'll bring it back. Maybe one day LEGO will bring back LEGO and Lego Adventures and Bionicle instead of just giving us teases. Yes, we want to save this. No, I guess we don't. Okay. Teases in other sets. And if that didn't save, oh, well, just deal with that when it comes to it. Okay. It did work. Okay. All right. Beautiful. This is a beautiful meme that we've created at the expense of a little downtime on our stream here. So, let's see. We are going to put this. Fuck it. We'll just show the main monitor. So, as long as it shows the primary monitor. Okay. We're gonna treat you to a nice little meme that we've been cooking up in Photoshop while we've been talking before we post it on to Twitter. But in reaction to us installing and actually being able to play a little bit just to make sure, just enough to make sure that it works. Last week, got our little Bionicle Heroes meme. After all this time, Bionicle Heroes still works. Bionicle Heroes downloaded and ran smoothly on our computer, so we're so excited. It was just like we remembered it. All the goofy Toa tools and everything. We're going home. We're going home. We're going home to Voya Nui. But again, we'll get into that next week when we actually play the game, because oh boy, we could get into a whole other tangent of Bionicle lore, especially Voya Nui. But that's not what we're doing tonight. That is not what we are doing tonight. Though, we could do that a little bit. Because, speaking of assets and assets that we want to build, and TTRPGs being the most likely source of wanting to build something, there is, and we're not going to be able to remember this, the name of this for the life of us. So we are just going to look it up because we have it in our history. There is a Bionicle TTRPG, and it's called Bionicle Lost Chronicles RPG. And it doesn't have a lot of stuff from later installments, later series, I guess, of Bionicle stuff, but it has up to Voya Nui and the Anika, and it's for what the developer did get to. Oh my gosh, like they have all the 6 elements plus like the extra ones like plasma, lightning, jungle, gravity. Do they have magnetism in here? It doesn't look like they have magnetism, but that's fine. Whatever. And well, oh my gosh, that might be the first time we'd be able to wholly depict a character or model out a character, right? Because Bionicles are biomechanical, synthetic organisms that occur naturally, but with a lot of fully organic instances. We were never that great at organic modeling. We tried, not for lack of trying. We took several classes, and it just didn't work out. We are a lot better with hard surface modeling, and like machines and inorganic stuff, but because Bionicle are like sort of halfway. If we were able to find enough people to do a Bionicle game like that, we'd actually have a pretty decent shot at accurately depicting characters. And like, oh my gosh, we could put those into Tailspire as well. We're gonna go off on another Lego tangent. I can feel it because everything we're talking about just reminds us of Legos. Well, Bionicle is a Lego property, so it's whatever. Even if Lego has neglected it for years, it's fine. It's fine. We're not bitter or salty about it because there might be something happening with Bionicle eventually, but we don't know. Who knows? But just being able to make a character, that would be so, just like a huge relief. Because imposter syndrome is, oh, so, hopefully we didn't miss that. 28, 5 minutes. It's been 5 minutes. Okay. So real. We've trained artists before, right? Yana and ourselves, mostly Yana, have trained people to become artists much better than ourselves in, full honesty. They started out as very good, very skilled 2D artists, the people that we helped. And like we said, we were super good at hard surface modeling. So we would seek out a couple people, we'd talk to our instructors and be like, hey, we want to teach people because teaching is a lot of fun, honestly. There is a lot to be gained from it in addition to, solidifying your own skills and just improving like how well you can talk with people and get stuff across. If you have the opportunity, we definitely recommend teaching something to a person. And it doesn't matter like what it is, as long as you're like passionate about it, or at least, skilled, knowledgeable in it. Because teaching other people does wonders. But we have these people, and like we said, they're incredible 2D artists, and because they were in grades and classes lower than us, years lower than us, they obviously, their skills weren't supposed to be developed to the point that ours were in terms of 3D design and hard surface modeling. So we went in with like the express intention of being like, hey, we're going to take this person and we're going to, kick their skills up to 100. And they're going to be the top of their classes. They're going to be like so good. And that's what happened. But at the same time, right, we're teaching all these people to be, to excel, to put it in weeb terms, to, go plus ultra or whatever, go Super Saiyan. And seeing them do that, right? But on our end, we only have like the hard surface skills. And then they've got the 2D skills that they've worked on for so long. And it just doesn't click in our head, right? We have so much difficulty putting down and depicting 3D surfaces on 2 dimensions. And we've gotten a bit better at it since that point in time. But not necessarily to the point that we are comfortable in it, right? And it's the same with organic modeling. Hard surface just comes easier, right? It's easier to shape out a box or computer or whatever than it is to really get the musculature of a person, you know, well defined and realistic. So that's always been something that we've been afraid to touch on because our attempts with it have been a little goofy at times. Sometimes intentionally, sometimes not. But yeah, with mechanical creatures, I mean, not even with just like Bionicle, with like D&D, like Warforged, or with Lancer, we could make mechs or whatnot, or with Gravity Rip, right? Luke Westway's sci-fi racing game. There's so many opportunities to actually be able to utilize our skills properly. And this is the point where our person wants to have a chat with us. So we are going to apologize in advance for splitting the attention. But let's see. Wondering. Celestial events. And okay. Interesting. Okay. That will work. I don't think this is going to take too much time at all, really. But we need to share this document. Oh my gosh, this document. Speaking of building things, I mean, what were people, when they started looking at stars, thinking? When they decided a group of like 5 stars looked like this giant hunter from Greek mythology. Who the fuck? Or I should say, what the fuck were they smoking? We're like, okay, so it's a bit more than 4 stars, but that still does not look like a person. Maybe that's just like, and even like Canis Major though is like some of what they've done with this is like nonsensical. Like how do 2 stars right next to each other end up being opposite feet? Somebody please make this make sense to me. On the bright side though, because of that, we are building out a whole constellation system for one of our games. And knowing that our stars do not have to fully match what is said to be depicted in the sky is a lifesaver. But seriously, what we would love to get into the heads of whoever was responsible for coming up with constellations and just be like, hey buddy, what's the thought process here? Maybe it's literally just that they're more creative than we are. That is 100% feasible. Maybe they were just bored. That's also feasible. What else is there to do in ancient Greece except for like be a Spartan and die, or be an Athenian and be a fucking nerd, right? There's not a lot much else going on. There probably was, but still, the point stands. Maybe it's not something that should be ridiculed. Maybe it's something that we should look at in awe because they're able to generate these images in the sky out of these points of light, millions of light years away, that last throughout generations. But we choose to not do that. That's not the enter button. That's not an actual thing, is it? Now let me. No, that's not an actual thing. So we're not going to say that. That's. Why the fuck is that bringing us to a Harry Potter link? Okay, whatever. Moving on. What were we saying? Oh, yeah. And now making the actual constellations is the easy part, right? Because, in fairness, we did sort of crank up the difficulty on this challenge. Because most people in this world, right, they look up and see the same constellations. Because that's just like how permeated throughout like the culture of this earth these constellations and these images are. At least in the Western world where Yana and ourselves reside, right? For some reason, we decided to make different star groupings look like different things to different countries in this world. And then the thing is, several of these, we're making like the whole calendar year, right, as well. Making the whole calendar year. So we have to like figure out which of these groupings, A, correspond to each other, and B, would show up at which time of the year. And we also didn't make it like even over which like societies, which cultures, which lands see which or how many. Like we've got one culture that only sees 4 constellations throughout the entire year. Well, not just 4, but 4 primary ones, like 4 like major ones. Like think Zodiac signs, like the Gemini and Leo and Aries, like that, those kinds of constellations, as opposed to like all constellations like the little dog comparing to Gemini, right? So like one land has 4 constellations, 4 major constellations that A, might be like a different thing to a different culture. B, parts of these might make up different things to a different culture. And C, like we have to figure out which ones of these correspond to what and show up at which time of the year, with accounting for the difference in how many each place sees at what time. And oh my gosh. But this is fun. This is a lot. It's the kind of like challenge that's enjoyable, right? It's not, we enjoy complaining, right? For better and for worse. And most of the time, we're not actually going to complain about something that is actually problematic for us, but something that is like sort of goofy and just like, oh yeah, you know, that's like not actually a problem, but I am going to rag on it anyways. And a lot of it is self-owning, because nobody said we had to make how many is this? Like over 30 constellations across these like 5 different countries. Nobody said we had to do that. And even if we did, nobody said we had to go further than that and make like the whole calendar year and what they each represent and which ones interact with which other ones. And in some cases, what's the name of the stars that make these things up? Nobody made us. That was all our own choice. So, so we're gonna have a little fun and sort of poke at that and complain, even though it's not a real issue. Because, again, I mean, everything we do when we are going to be making something is going to be fully of our own volition, right? There is nobody, there are very few people who could make us do something we don't want to do. And in that, we've got no one to blame but ourselves for doing dumb shit, right? But we're also not going to just let ourselves get away with that. We're fully going to roast ourselves if we rake step. And, oh boy. Out of all the rake stepping we've done recently, this is a pretty good one, we'll be honest. But we do need to finish this eventually. But yeah. I wish there was like something else we could do or not even something else we could do. I wish there was a good way to consolidate everything, because as we've got it right now, right? We've got Google Docs open with the actual like text of what everything is and whatnot. But then we also have to, well, again, rake stepping here. We don't have to do shit, but we're going to draw them out, right? We're going to draw the constellations, which stars and like how many stars or whatever, and like what the image is supposed to be. And then we have to put that all into the calendar, right? And organize them by what shows up where and whatever. And it's just, the trouble is making sure, like, going back and forth, because we're going to have to go to like Photoshop to draw the stars and the images. But Photoshop isn't going to be a good program for like mapping out the calendar year. That is something that I'm probably going to have to do by hand on like pen and paper. Because text documents on Photoshop aren't good programs to do that for organizing your thoughts in that way, in a visual way. So we've got 3 different sources of information that we're going to have to compile eventually, but this all needs to be done by Tuesday. So, yeah, rake stepping. Rake stepping is definitely adequate for what we're doing to ourselves. But it's not like we've got a lot going on past Sundays. But, so that'll be a non-issue. Let's see here. All right. Now, okay, we do think we're going to cut the stream about here, a little shorter than usual, just because we want to get back to this person. And we can already tell we're not going to be able to cut our attention between talking and getting back to this person. We said we'd get back to them like 20 minutes ago initially, so we feel a little bad. But been almost an hour, good 50 minutes or so. So not too much shorter than we usually do. But yeah, so if you've made it this far, as always, we appreciate your time and attention. And And yeah, we are going to be, I think we covered a lot of stuff at the beginning of the stream, but we are going to be posting our schedule pretty soon. And we've got a lot of games, or 2 games, that we are super excited for. Again, we've got Bionicle Heroes coming up, and we've got Citizen Sleeper coming up. So hopefully we'll be able to hold off from starting a game in Citizen Sleeper for just a couple more days before we start, because we really want to go in fresh, but we also really, really want to play. It's gonna be a tough couple days, but that is already up on our community page, and will be up on both our Twitter and our Tumblr. We've got a Tumblr now. That's pretty much fully set up. So we are going to be posting in all the places, as many places as we can. So we hope to see you there. I don't think that there's anything else we have. So until we next meet, we hope you have a good day, good night, or good evening wherever you are. And bye-bye.